one's eyes and ears from looking at or listening to that which is prohibited or that which is superfluous. One should also keep forbidden and suspect food from reaching one's stomach, especially at the time of breaking the fast, at which time one should do one's utmost to eat nothing but halal food. One of our virtuous ancestors had said, when you fast, observe what you break your fast with and in whose house you do it, indicating that one should be circumspect and careful about what one breaks one's fast with. He who fasts should also guard all his members, first from sin, then from unnecessary things. This is how the fast becomes complete and pure. How many a person may fast, suffer the hardship of hunger and thirst, and his bodily members from sins spoils his fast. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had said, how many a fasting person gains nothing from fasting, hunger and thirst. To refrain from sin is always mandatory for fasting and unfasting persons alike. However, it is more emphatically incumbent upon the fasting person, more of a duty for him to understand. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had said, fasting is a protection from the fire. When it is a day of fasting, for one of you, let him refrain from lewd speech and quick-tempered reaction. Should insult him or quarrel with him and say, I am fasting. It is good manners for the fasting person not to sleep too much per day, nor eat much per night. Let him be moderate in both, that he may feel some hunger and thirst, that his soul may be disciplined, his appetite weakened, and his heart illuminated. This is the secret and purpose of fasting. Let him avoid luxuries and, as we have just said, excess in indulging his appetite and pleasure. He can they are being deceived by Shaitan, for he is jealous of them, and wishes to deprive them of the blessings of the fast and prevent its effects from appearing on them in the form of before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the pleasure of communing with Him, reciting the Quran and invoking Him. Our virtuous ancestors, may Allah have mercy on them, used to reduce their habitual and their pleasurable activities in Ramadan while increasing their good works. This was their normal pattern at all times, but they intensified it further in Ramadan. It is good manners not to be overly concerned with worldly affairs during the month of Ramadan. One should free oneself for the worship and constant remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not engage in any worldly endeavor unless it is strictly necessary of the sunnah to hasten to break one's fast and that it be done with dates or if dates are unavailable with water. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to break his fast before the Maghrib prayer and he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the people shall remain in a good state as long as they hasten with breaking their fast and delay their suhoor. Therefore, delaying suhoor is also a sunnah. The fasting person should eat in moderation so that the effects of fasting may show on him and he may attain its secret. On the contrary, three. If he must, then a third for his food, a third for his beverage, and a third for his bread. Someone once said, when the stomach is saturated, all the members become hungry. But when the stomach is hungry, then the members are saturated. I say, Hunger for the members is to demand and insist to satisfy their appetites. The tongue desires to talk, the eye to look, the ear to listen, and so on. They are only moved to demand what is in excess of their needs when the stomach is full. On the other hand, when it is empty, they become quiet and tranquil, which is expressed as the satiety of the members. This is an observable fact, and Allah knows best.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك. الإمام الحداد continues in his book titled النصائح الدينية والوصايا الإيمانية in the chapter of fasting. He says وَلِلصَّائِمِ آدَابٌ لَا يَكْمُلُ صِيَامُهُ إِلَّا بِهَا, that the person who fasts, there are certain adab and etiquette that he should observe, through which his fast will only become perfect if he observes those etiquettes and those adab. فَمِنْ أَهَمِّهَا, we understand that fasting is after the essential integral rule of niyyah, and the person should make his intention in the fard fasting of Ramadan. uh, he should make tabyid of his niyyah. The tabyid of the niyyah is making the niyyah before Fajr. If the person omits to make his niyyah before Fajr, the consequence and the result of that is that he he is unable to, or his fard fast for that day is not accepted, and he then subsequently has to make qada of the day. He has to make imsak. Imsak is to refrain from doing anything that breaks one's fast during the day, but he also has to repay the day in. This is in a fard fast. Imam Malik is of the opinion that one intention for the entire month is sufficient, and therefore the Malikis would make one intention at the beginning of the month of Ramadan, and that intention would be sufficient for them for the entire month. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa says that one can make your intention even after Fajr, even if it is a fard fast. Al-Imam Shafi'i draws a distinction between fard and nafil. He says the nafil you can make your intention up until zawal, whereas fard you require to make your intention tabyitan the night before. Hence the reason why the practice of our ulama and our imma is that they recite the intention the after Taraweeh generally. As how we heard now, Hafiz Mubarak Talib, may Allah Ta'ala bless him. He read the intention of tomorrow in order to comply with the requirement of Tabiyyatun Niyyah, making the intention the night before. The beginning time of that starts from Ghurub al-Shams, sunset. So as soon as the sun has set, yaqeenan, if the waqt of Maghrib has entered, then the person can make his niyyah already. Whether it's after Maghrib, or after Isha, or after Taraweeh, or after Salat al-Tahajjud, provided it is done before Tulu' al-Fajr. If it coincides, even a few minutes before Tulu' al-Fajr, the intention is still accepted. If it coincides with Tulu' al-Fajr, as the Fajr waqt enters, as Fajr waqt enters, he makes his intention that doesn't comply with the requirement of Tabiyyatun Niyyah, and as a result, he has to pay the day in. What the Mashayikh have advised is that the person, he should make his one intention at the beginning of Ramadan. For those who made it, they've made it, mashallah, and those who have not made it, can make it now. That they intend to fast the entire month of Ramadan. They intend to fast the entire month of Ramadan. And by that, they comply with the Maliki scholar, the Maliki view, that it's one intention suffices. So in the event if the person misses his intention for the month of for one night, then his fasting will still be valid according to the Maliki madhab. However, he makes qada of that khurujan min al-khilaf, which is a Shafi'i who makes qada because of the khilaf that exists with regards to making the intention. Second condition is al-imsak. Imsak is to abstain from anything that breaks one's fast. Whether it is al-aklu, wal-shurbu, wal-istiqa'atu, wal-jima'u, عامدا عالما مختارا. The 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 person's veins is regarded as a cavity or not. And hence the difference of opinion with regard to the injections that are taken, that one takes in the vein. Does it break one's fast? Does it not break one's fast? The contemporary scholars hold a different view to the more classical scholars. And the classical scholars, they held the opinion that, for example, the ear was regarded as a cavity, and as a result, that the person puts eardrops in his ear, then his fast would be broken. The contemporary scholars hold a different view. They say that the ear doesn't link to the cavity, which is the brain. So there's no link. There's no access point from the ear into the brain, unless the person obviously has some kind of has some kind of sickness where there's an access point. But generally the person's ear, according to the scholars and the medical uh, um, um, researchers, there's no access point between the person's ear and the brain. As a result of that, if he puts in eardrops, and it doesn't break his fast. However, with that said, it is best that the person applies caution, particularly with this khilaf that exists, in order to make sure that his fast is valid according to the different madahib. The same applies to the injections, and the same applies to the person maybe going to the dentist in order to extract a tooth or to go for some kind of operation. Going to the dentist itself doesn't break one's fast. However, it is what goes down the cavity. Whatever goes down the passage and it reaches the cavity, that breaks the fast. So if blood goes down, if water goes down, if pieces of the tooth that breaks goes down, that is what breaks the fast. But the actual going to the doctor himself and having the operation done in the mouth doesn't break the fast. And therefore, if the person is able to guarantee that nothing goes down, then it's fine. لا بأس بذلك. However, it is very difficult with the operations, or the with the with the with the current procedures that takes place, and where they put actually they put liquid into the person's mouth, or they spray water into the person's mouth, and they have another pipe that drains the water and that drains the blood out of the mouth. So it's very difficult for the person to say certainly that nothing has gone down, and hence it is best for the person not to, if he can afford to, not go to the dentist during the day, and rather do the, the night, or alternatively use pain medication until such time. If the pain becomes unbearable, then qada would be a better option for him. Uh, Imsak, and then qada, to not eat for the rest of the day, and then also pay in the day in the event if anything had gone down. Wallahu a'lam. These contemporary issues are obviously as a discussion amongst the scholars, and it remains a discussion because as certain things unfolds, as new research unfolds, every little new research adds a different uh, angle to the discussion, and can potentially change the hukum completely around, can completely change the hukum, and that's why it's a constant discussion between the scholars with regards to those things. So every person observes those ahkam, and he made his intention, and he has stayed away from anything that breaks his fast, that invalidates his fast, and he hasn't had any conjugal relation or any intimacy with his spouse, and the scholars generally say the spouse, because even though when the person commits zina, his fast is also broken. But the reason why they say the spouse is because the act of zina itself, while it breaks one's fast, it is a greater consequence, and it's a greater sin, which is the zina itself. So the zina itself is a greater sin, so it almost like it overshadows the fact that the person just broke his fast. Hence the reason when the people speak about jima, they speak about they don't speak about his wife and not his wife. They generally just speak about his wife because the zina is a kabira. It is a major sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah protect us and our progeny and our offspring. Ameen. From this great heinous sin. Ameen. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Rabbil Alameen. And such as, for example, the what is known as istimna, which is masturbation. It is also haram, and it breaks the fast of the person unless the person's he ejaculated on account of, for example, a wet dream or without istimna, without masturbation, and he released seminal fluid in the person's fast would not be broken because it was done unwillingly. However, if he intended to extract or to masturbate, then it invalidates his fast, regardless whether it is him doing it or whether it is his spouse that does it. If it is him, then it is haram. The fact that he masturbated, because masturbation is haram in itself, and his fast is broken. If it is by, for example, the hand of his spouse, and then it is not haram, the actual action is not haram. However, the masturbation still breaks the person's fast. Why is it permissible with the spouse's hand and not with the person himself? Is because there's almost like a rule in fiqh that the spouse, the wife, has the haq of extracting the person's money. The interesting thing, the wife has the haq of extracting the husband's money, and he doesn't have the right to extract it himself. And as a result of it, by him doing it, it's haram. This if his wife does it, it is it's not haram. We're speaking obviously outside the month of Ramadan. Naam, and so whilst the person observes those things and he makes sure that his fast is valid and does comply with all of those legal rulings, there's another thing that is important to realize, and that is not the end of one's fast. One's fast goes beyond that, and that is that the objective of fast is not only to stay hungry and to stay away from drinking and stay away from intimacy and conjugal relations with one's spouse. The objective of fasting is greater and higher objectives. And he says here, وَلِلصَّائِمِ آدَابٌ لَا يَكْمُلُ صِيَامُهُ إِلَّا بِهَا. The Sa'im, there is etiquette that he should observe, through which his fasting will only reach perfection if he observes those etiquettes. فَمِنْ أَهَمِّهِ, amongst the most important of them is أَنْ يَحْفَظَ لِسَانَهُ عَنِ الْكَذِبِ وَالْغِيبَةِ. He should preserve his tongue from lying and from backbiting and speaking about things that are of no benefit to him. And he should preserve his eyes and his ears from listening and looking and listening to that which is not permissible. And everything that is regarded as fudul, um, extra or excessive, or things that are of no benefit. Now, so he says this kadhib and ghiba. The majority of the scholars say that it doesn't break one's fast. So they say that it's almost like ittifaq. There's agreement amongst the scholars that the ghiba and namima and those things doesn't break one's fast. Al-Imam al-Uza'i, Sufyan al-Thawri, and Abu Dawud al-Zahiri, which is the founder of the Zahiri madhab, they say that he says that ghiba breaks your fast. Based on the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says, "من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه." The one who doesn't refrain from vain talk and uh, uh, he was staying away from eating and drinking. And the hadith of the two females that were fasting and then they were speaking ill about others, and as a result of that, the Prophet ﷺ said that they were fasting on They were fasting by not eating food and not drinking, but they broke their fast by speaking about the honor and the integrity of other people behind their backs. So they say that the prophecies were aftarata, and because they had iftar, they made fitr, they broke their fast on that, on backbiting. They will say the text, the zahir of the apparent meaning of the hadith says that his fast is broken. The zahir meaning of the text is, and that is why they call zahiriyah. The zahiriyah, who is nisbatan ila Abu Dawud al-Zahiri, he is, they call the zahiriyah because they take the apparent meaning of the text. They take the apparent, whatever the text is, that's what they take. They don't go anything, they don't go deeper into what the actual meanings may be, what the context is, what the incident, what led to that. Are there any other hadith, for example, that came later on? So they generally look at the text. What does the zahir of the text say? And then they implement it. So the zahir of the text implies here that the person's fast is broken, so his fast is broken. The rest of the scholars say, no, it's not broken. Number one. The only thing that breaks one's fast is those things that are mentioned in the books of fiqh. And then they would mention uh, that Al-Imam al-Ghazali, however, draws a middle path between the two. Al-Imam al-Ghazali, he says he distinguishes between two things, between mubtilat and muhbitat. And he says one thing is that invalidates your fast and your reward, and there's another thing that invalidates your reward but not your fast. Such thing that invalidates your fast completely, including your reward, is some of the things that you mentioned, such as eating and drinking, etc., etc. Those things that invalidates your reward, it takes away your reward. However, your fast is still intact, like riba and namima. So your fast is still valid. Your fast is not broken, but your reward is compromised. The person's reward is compromised to the point that the person may completely lose the reward of that day that he had fasted. Yes, he won't be answerable on the Qiyamah to Allah, the fact that he didn't fast. Allah won't say, why didn't you fast that day? And that's the difference between the two. The person who commits an action that amounts to ibtal, that invalidates, he on the day of Qiyamah will be answerable. Why didn't you fast? If you didn't make qada, why didn't you pay in the day? A person who is guilty of a mubtil, an action that invalidates the reward, not the actual fasting, he is not required to make qada of the day from a legal perspective. Nor will he be answerable to Allah as to why he didn't fast, but he will be answerable as to why he committed actions that removed the reward of his fasting. And that is the difference between the two. Al-Imam al-Ghazali then draws in his Ihya, in his revival of religious science, and therefore is called the Mujaddid of his time because he was able to marry between the fiqh, which is a very dry subject that contains ahkam and rules, and how he's able to take some of the higher meanings of Sharia, which is basically under the umbrella of ihsan. So he takes Islam and he takes ihsan, and he he consolidates between the two and he marries the two together, and he shows the strong interrelatedness between the two. He shows the strong connection between the two, and that it's not just hard crust rules. Islam is more about that. Islam is, while the rules are there, the objective behind the rules is to eventually reach to the level of ihsan, to reach to the level of perfection. So then he divides the fasting into three categories. As we know it very commonly, is Sawm al-Umum, Sawm al-Khusus, and Sawm Khusus al-Khusus. The fasting of the common layman, the fasting of the elite, and the fasting of the elite of the elite. The fasting of the common layman is the one who complies with the laws of Islam. Don't. He stays away from eating, he stays away from drinking, he stays away from anything that invalidates his fast. And he's hakada. That's his fast. Beyond that, he's not his fasting is nothing more than that. Nothing more, nothing less than that. The Sawm al-Khusus, the Sawm of the elite, is a level higher than that. And that is a level where the person, he's a part of him complying with the fiqh requirements of fasting, and his fast is valid in terms of the fuqaha, the scholars. He has over and above that a standard that he had set for himself. And I say again, a standard that he had set for himself. Because the person is not expected that the person would say, such a person would say, that when he sees someone committing riba or lying, he say, your fasting is invalid, you need to make qada of your day. He can't say that because Sharia doesn't say that. Sharia doesn't say that. However, beyond Sharia, there's there's tariqah. Beyond tariqah, there's haqiqah. And the person in every level, in every tier of those levels, these actions of which, if it was to be presented to those who are above them, they would find it to be inadequate. Again, within Sharia, the people that act in terms of Sharia, Sharia is a must. A person can't claim that he's acting in terms, he's practicing tariqah without Sharia. Nor can a person claim that he's practicing haqiqah without tariqah in Sharia. So haqiqah requires tariqah in Sharia. So does tariqah require Sharia. Sharia is the basic, it is the minimum requirement for every person. A person who thinks that he can implement higher meanings of Islam without complying with the base foundational rules is deceived. من تصوف ولم يتح... من من تصوف ولم يتفقه فقد تفسق. من تصوف ولم يتفقه فقد تفسق. A person who tries to apply tasawwuf, but he doesn't apply the rules of fiqh, such a person becomes a fasiq. Such a person becomes a fasiq because the rules of Sharia is required. And the rules of Sharia will always be the base and the foundation where any believer departs from. A person can never think at one point in time that I will reach such a level that the laws of Sharia will no longer become applicable to me. No. The laws of Sharia are sacred and it's sanctified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a story by maybe just to drive this meaning of the importance of Sharia, because at times uh, we live at times in a period where people speak about higher meanings. They speak about higher meanings of the deen, but then they don't implement the basis of Islam. No, your basis, your foundations has to be intact. You can't speak about higher meanings. You can't speak about shuhud. You can't speak about kashf, you can't speak about understanding that these awliya only reached there because they perfected the foundation. They perfected the basics. They perfected the principles. And from there, they grew and they grew and they grew and they reached where they are. You're not going to reach there. You're not going to reach there if you have not perfected your basics. So there was this one story of Imam Ibn al-Muqri. He's a famous Shafi'i scholar. Ibn al-Muqri is the author of al-Irshad, the famous Shafi'i book. And a person came to him, a person who was also a scholar, but he was a arif of Allah Ta'ala. He was a great saint of Allah Ta'ala. And he came to him and he told him that Al-Imam Ibn Muqri was a qadi, he was a judge. So this Shaykh Ibrahim came to him with a dispute. And the dispute was, he's telling Al-Qadi, the Qadi Ibn Muqri, that this person took my cow. This person took my cow. Understand now that the Shaykh Ibrahim is a wali of Allah. He's a person that has a great hal with Allah Ta'ala. And Ibn al-Muqri is a great scholar, faqih. And he's the Qadi. And this wali of Allah is making a case, or is raising a dispute, a claim in front of the judge against a person who stole his cow, who was one of the laymen. One of the common folk. And Shaykh Ibn al-Muqri sits and listens to the matter. Shaykh Ibrahim, he tells him, Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti tells him, يا فضيلة القاضي هذا سرق بهيمتي, so and so person. The Al-Imam al-Muqri tells the person, إنه يدعي أنك سرقت بهيمته. He claims that you stole the cow. He says, يا Shaykh Ibn al-Muqri, هذه بقرتي, this is my cow. And let him present his proof. Al-Imam Ibn Muqri goes back to Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti and he tells him, where's your proof? This is the law in terms of the law of evidence in Sharia is al-bayyinatu al-mudda'i wal-yaminu ala man ankar. That is a standard law in the law of evidence, is that the person who comes in and makes a claim, he must present a bayyinah. What's a bayyinah? Is a proof. A proof is, for example, shahidain, two witnesses. And the person who denies it must take an oath by Allah. He say, Wallahi al-azim, I didn't do so and so and so. I didn't steal his cow. So he goes, Al-Imam al-Muqri goes back to Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti and tells him, where's your proof that that cow is yours and that he stole your cow? He says, I don't have proof, but I can make this cow speak. Now I can make this cow speak, and this cow will tell you who it belongs to. The cow will tell you it belongs to me. Because he's a wali of Allah Ta'ala, so he wants to now show he doesn't have proof. So he says, I will make this cow speak. I'll make this cow speak to tell you that the cow belongs to me. And Imam al-Muqri tells him, according to us, we accept the testimonies of human beings, we can't accept the testimonies of cows. The testimony of animals is not accepted in terms of fiqh. So he says, Hakada. Is that the case? Well, you'll see what happened. What will happen to you now. He says, Ya ard ibla'i, oh earth, swallow him. The qadi is sitting. The earth takes him up knee deep. The earth swallows him in knee deep. And Imam Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti tells him, تقبل شهادة البقرة. Will you accept now the testimony of a cow? He says, عندي شرع الله, the law of Allah Ta'ala, نقبل شهادة العدل. It must be عدل الشهادة. If he is not upright and is not a person, a human being, I can't accept the testimony of an animal. He says, Ya ard ibla'i, earth, swallow him. The earth swallows him until he's waist deep. He's sitting waist deep. And Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti is now showing some of his karamats now. He's a wali of Allah. How will a wali of Allah lie? But this is a shara of Allah. This is a sharia of the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The law of Allah supersedes. The law of Allah will always be superior. So Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti, he looks at him and says, تقبل شهادة البقرة. Are you going to accept the testimony of the cow or not? He says, لا أقبل شهادة البقرة. شرع الله لا أقبل شهادة. I can't accept the testimony of a cow. And as Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti wants to say, Ya ard, O earth, take him completely in. Al-Imam ibn al-Muqri, the Qadi, he says, Ya Rasul Allah shar'ak. He calls out and he says, O Messenger of Allah, your Sharia. Because he's implementing the Sharia of Rasulullah. As he calls out and he says, Shara'ak, your Sharia, O Messenger of Allah, the earth spits him out. The earth spits him out. When the person that stole the cow, when he sees this happening, he sees a person that is willing to make a cow speak, and him making the Qadi himself, the earth swallowing him in, and the Qadi then shouts, Oh Rasulullah, your Sharia, and the earth spits him out. He said, Ya Shahadat al-Qadi, I ask ma, the cow belongs to Ibrahim al-Jabarti, let me just go here before anything happens to me. The point is that the Sharia of Allah, here's a karama that's taking place. Here's a person of Sharia, a person of Tariqah, and a person of Haqiqah. Shaykh Ibrahim al-Jabarti, a person who's reached high levels in terms of his tasawwuf. But the Sharia will always be the Sharia. Because it's the law of Allah. Allah made that law. Allah sent the law down to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and hence the reason why Sharia will always be the basis where every single person must depart from. No one can claim that he's above Sharia. And therefore Shaitan would play with the people and make them think, you're above that, you are beyond that. No one is beyond the Sharia of Allah. Sayyid Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, the famous story of him, where a person, he was walking in the desert, and then a voice came to him and he told him, Ya Abdul Qadir, Ya Abdul Qadir. He looks up. He says, Naam. He says, Inni ana Rabbuk, I am your Lord. He says, Rabbi, my Lord. He says, Naam. قد أسقطت عنك جميع الشرائع. I've taken away now all your duties and all your obligations in terms of Sharia. You've reached the state of certainty, and therefore you no longer need to worship me. So he looks up and he says, اخسأ يا لعين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And he says, keep quiet, you cursed one. And as he says that, the voice changes and Shaitan appears to him. And Shaitan tells him, how did you know that it was me? He says, because why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not even absolve Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from not performing his acts of ibadah. Who am I to be absolved from it? So Shaitan told Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, you know, with this trick that I did to you now, I've made so many other people worship as ubad. So many of them fell into the trap, simply because they didn't have the knowledge of Sharia. The law of Sharia is the basis. Al-Habib Ahmad bin Hassan al-Attas, there's a story of him. He says that there was once in the land in Tarim, where there was a dispute with regard to the moon. Was the moon sighted, or was the moon not sighted? And in some of the Aidarus family, they didn't celebrate the I'm thinking if it was the moon for Ramadan or the moon of Shawwal. It was the moon for Shawwal. It was the moon for Shawwal. So it was the end of Ramadan, the moon for Shawwal. So they all went out for Eid, and this, some of the Eidarus, they didn't. And when they asked him why, he says, I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a dream last night. And he came to me and he told me that it's fasting tomorrow. You have to fast tomorrow. So the news went out and went to the Shaykh. The Shaykh came to him and he says, Ya Habib, what's the reason that you're not coming out for Eid and you're not celebrating with everyone? He says, Inni ra'aytu Rasulallah. I saw Rasulullah al-Bariha. Wa akhbarani, and he told me that I must fast tomorrow. So the Shaykh tells him, وَلَكِنِّي رَأَيْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ يَقَظَةً. He says, but I saw Rasulullah in a wakeful state. And Rasulullah said, it's Eid tomorrow. He says, Kaif? You saw Rasulullah in a wakeful state? He says, Na'am. He says, how is that possible? He says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, then he quoted the narration, so and so person, narrated from so person, who narrated from so person, narrated from Abu Hurairah, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said, Sumu li ru'yatihi, wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. Fast when you see the moon, and break your fast when you see the moon. And that Sahabi, he tells Sayyid al-Ayyur, he says, that Sahabi saw Rasulullah ﷺ. And that person saw the Sahabi, and that one saw the Tabi, and that one saw the Tabi, up until now, and I'm narrating the hadith to you. So these people, we saw Rasulullah in a physical state, you saw Rasulullah in a dream. So come out and come celebrate Eid with us. So, sakata, qala na'am, Shari'at Allah, the Sharia of Allah Ta'ala is always preferred. Here's a person who saw Rasulullah in his dream. But can a person act upon a hukum shara'i based on a dream? No. The Sharia of Allah is the Sharia of Allah. The law says, if the moon is sighted, the month enters. The moon was sighted. Why are you quoting a dream now? And therefore, many people, they get lost in those meanings where they want to circumvent at times the law of Sharia, whilst the law of Sharia is always superior. The law of Allah is always superior. Na'am, وهكذا, he says that a person, whilst the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is superior, the objective of the Sharia of Allah is to set a basis. And from that basis, a person can depart and a person can grow. So now the person grows from a fasting of the common person to the fasting of the khusus, the elite. The fasting of the elite is where not only does he stay away from eating and drinking, but his hands fast, his legs fast, his feet fast, his heart fast, his eyes fast, his ears fast, his tongue fasts. His eyes does not look upon at anything that displeases Allah. His tongue does not speak anything that displeases Allah. Nor does he speak anything that is even makruh, disliked. Nor does he speak any talks that are vain, that are of no benefit, that are superfluous. Nor does his hands make any movements unless within it is the obedience of Allah. Nor does his feet take him to any place unless within that is the obedience of Allah. And that is the fasting of the elite. His tongue, his mouth is controlled, his mouth is preserved, his mouth is fasting, in the sense that whatever he utters, within it is the pleasure of Allah. Within it is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no kalam fuduli, there's no excessive unnecessary talks that are taking place. That is the fasting of the khusus. Such people, Al-Imam al-Ghazali says, the fasting of the umum, their fast breaks by eating and drinking and having intimacy. The fasting of the khusus, of the elite, their fast is broken by speaking anything other than the remembrance of Allah and Quran and things of the dunya. That's when their fast breaks. Or engaging in worldly activities and doing things with their hands that will not get them closer to Allah. That's when their fast breaks. As for the people who's the elite of the elite, and that's the fasting of the prophets, and the fasting of the siddiqeen, and the fasting of the muqarrabeen, fasting of those who are truthful to Allah, inwardly and outwardly, and those who are drawn near to Allah. Their fasting is sawm khusus al-khusus, fasting of the elite of the elite. How do they fast? They fast with their hearts. They fast with their hearts. What do you mean? So they eat and drink by their hearts is fasting? No. The Sharia is still there. They still comply with the laws of Sharia. But a part of that, their limbs is all fasting. But over and above the limbs fasting, the heart fasts of being in the heart is fasting in the sense that it is not distracted from anything other than Allah. Okay? The heart is fasting in the sense that the heart doesn't get distracted by anything other than Allah. The heart is focused, it's fixated, it's pegged to Allah. That's it. That's it. Nothing other than that. He says their fast breaks when their heart slightly turns away, and their heart turns away to the dunya, then the fast is broken. How does that happen now? Therefore, the people that is in the level of the umum and the level of Sharia, right? When they look at the people above, they don't see really much difference between their fast and those who are above. But those who are on the high level, when they look down at them, and they're not looking down at them in a condescending way, but they look at them, they realize that their fasting is the state of fasting, which is the fasting of the limbs and the fasting of all of the organs in their body. That state of fasting, it is one that is much more greater and much more sacred and requires to be observed more. As opposed to a person that is just fasting normally. All he needs to do is he mustn't eat, he mustn't drink. Imagine you must observe all your limbs. Whenever you speak, you must watch what you speak. Watch what comes out of your mouth. When your eyes opens and you're looking, you must watch what you look at. When you're listening, you must be careful what you hear. Imagine how the person has to be observant on these types of movements of his limbs and his organs. He has to be very cautious. And the slightest deviation breaks his fast. What do they do in the first category of Sharia? If they backbite, they don't make qada of the day. The fasting is okay, it's alright. On the second level, if there's ghiba that takes place, they make qada of that day. On the third level, which is the fasting of the elite, if their heart slightly just moves away from Allah Ta'ala, they make qada of that day. And that is how Imam al-Ghazali drew in the balance between the Sharia and the Tariqah and Haqiqah and basically Ihsan. Between Islam and between Ihsan, and how he combined between the two and showed that there is really no conflict between the two. But rather, you require Sharia to attain Tariqah and eventually grow to Haqiqah. You require Sharia, Islam, in order to reach the station of Ihsan. A person can't reach Ihsan without Islam. Islam resembles Sharia. If you say Islam, it means Sharia. If you say Iman, it resembles Aqidah and Tawheed. If you say Ihsan, it resembles the signs of Tasawwuf. So the signs of Tasawwuf, it is essential. But in order to practice Tasawwuf, you require Islam. You require Sharia. And therefore the people of Tasawwuf, they are more observant on Sharia than the people who are only practicing Sharia. And therefore when a person denies and he says, what is Tasawwuf? This Tasawwuf is just a whole lot of stories and, what's it? Tasawwuf is just, like stories of people and, nice riwayas and juicy stuff. No. Tasawwuf, in order to have reached that level, they had to perfect Sharia. Where I am now, they've been there long ago. They've been there decades ago. And they're still there. They've never left, they've never departed. A person who reaches the highest level of qurb, of closeness to Allah, he never leaves Sharia. He is always, he's muqim, he's stationed in the valley of Sharia. But he's so well established in Sharia that Sharia becomes second nature to him. And as a result, that when he moves from Sharia to Tariqah, from Tariqah to Haqiqah, Sharia is still a second nature to him in his life. And the greater meanings now becomes, becomes more prevalent in his life, and becomes more a common phenomenon in his life. And for him now to observe and to control his limbs and control his tongue and to control his eyes becomes easier and easier and easier. And the more easy it becomes, he now moves out of the sphere of Sawm al-Khusus to the Sawm Khusus al-Khusus, the Sawm of the elite of the elite, because now his limbs have become subservient to Allah. His limbs has become subservient to Allah. Once his limbs has become subservient to Allah, he no longer has to focus, hey, am I speaking wrong? Hey, am I looking at the wrong thing? No. He doesn't desire to look at anything haram. He doesn't make any movements other than the movements that within it is Allah's pleasure. So now he's able to now move to a higher sphere, and that is the fasting of the elite, where he now focuses on his heart. But he still stays away from eating, and he still stays away from drinking, and he's still doing everything they do there, except that he's moving in a different sphere. Sharia is intact. Tariqah now is intact, and Haqiqah becomes now his focus, and until he reaches from Haqiqah, he reaches al-Haqq. He reaches al-Haqq, which is Allah. The ultimate reality of entire existence, who is none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he reaches. Once he reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there he enters basically, and that's when his journey starts. They say, when the people of Tasawwuf say, Al-Qawm, for example, قَدْ وَصَلُوا لِحَضْرَةِ رَبِّهِمْ, they've reached the presence of Allah. By reaching the presence of Allah, it means the journey has not only started. Because by reaching, the passage opens up like that. And because reaching Allah, there's no end to Allah. There's no end to the journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it opens up. And when they realize how vast the journey is there, they are humbled by the journey, and they realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest, and there is none other than Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. وهكذا. The fasting of the person who understands these meanings, he tries to control his tongue and his limbs and his eyes and his hearing, and he also protects his stomach, that he does not consume that which is haram, nor does he consume that which is doubtful. And particularly at the time of iftar, he exerts himself, and he makes sure that whatever he breaks his fast on is 100% halal. Not only halal, but he also makes sure that what he breaks his fast on is something that will not only nourish his body, that will nourish his ruh. Because what we consume has not an effect on our body, also it has an effect on our ruh. If it is good, if the person eats good food, then that food has a positive effect on the person's ruh. If the person eats food that is doubtful, then remember, everything that you consume has to take an effect on the outer form. So whatever I put in has to come out. So the way it comes out is through the person's actions, through the person's speech. If a person who doesn't worry whether he eats halal or haram, you will see his mouth is very foul. His hands and his limbs, it moves very erratic, because he doesn't observe what is put in his body, and therefore what comes out of it now, it's vulgar, because he's put in things that he did alles ingedrukt. Whereas the person who is observant on what he puts inside, when it does take the outer form and it takes the external form in terms of his limbs, then you'll see عليه sakina, tranquility, waqar, submissiveness, humility, هكذا. One of the Habaib, he was invited to eat at a person's place, and this person was a tajir, was a businessman, and there was some doubt in with regards to his income and where his sustenance comes from. And so he didn't want to go to the da'wah. The person insisted. So Habib invited him to his house. And he told him, I want you to share a meal with me. He presented him with a meal, and he gave him the rice, and he gave him meat, and gave him some tea, and gave some milk, and eventually he's done eating. So the Habib told him, you know what you ate now? This rice. I can tell you exactly where the field is that this rice came from. And I can tell you which water, the source of the water that was used to irrigate this rice. As for this meat that you ate now, this meat, I can tell you exactly which animal it was. I can tell you when that animal was born. I can tell you what's udder? Feed. Fodder. I can tell you what feed was used for that animal. I can tell you exactly where the animal grazed, what water the animal drank. This milk, I can tell you exactly from which animal it came, and what was used as nourishment, as feed for that cow, for that animal, that cow, to be able to generate and to produce that milk. So whatever you see on my table here, I know the source of it. And the source of it is 100% halal. Where is the sources of your food? What is the source of your funds? Where does your food come from? And therefore they would be extremely observant on what they would put in their body, particularly within this time and this age that we live in, where Rasulullah says there will come a time that people won't care anymore where the sustenance comes from, whether it's halal or haram. It's any job that comes in, any opportunity, they just look for an opportunity, because as geld om te maak. Then later on, they come and they say, Sheikh, my child, I don't know what's wrong with my child. Sheikh, I got problems in my marriage, I don't know what's wrong with my marriage. But there is a problem. Problem started, you fed your children from haram. Your wife was nourished from haram. So what do you expect that things will go right in your life? May Allah Ta'ala protect us, inshallah. And this is the month wherein we reflect upon those meanings, and we reflect upon what we do, our output and our input, what we put in our body. And as a result of that, what will become the output after we've placed what we place in our body. So we limit our intake, and we limit what we put in our body, as the Imam al-Haddad says here. The person therefore should limit his intake of his food, and he should limit what he consumes. He shouldn't sleep abundantly during the day. He shouldn't eat abundantly during the night. He should do it in moderation. He should feel the hunger. He should feel thirst. By feeling the hunger and feeling the thirst, the person's nafs would become weakened. His desires becomes weakened. And as his desire weakens and his nafs weakens, his heart becomes more radiant and more luminant. That's a natural consequence. Once your nafs becomes weak, your heart shines. The more your nafs becomes weak, the more your shahwa, your desire becomes weaker, the more your heart shines. The more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows your ruh to grow. Your ruh grows under those conditions. Your ruh grows under the malnourishment, malnutrition of the body. The malnutrition and the lack of nourishment of the physical body means that the ruh is nourished. The ruh is malnutrition or lacks nutrition when the body is overfed. As you're feeding your body, your ruh suffers. As you underfeed your body, your ruh grows. So that is how it works. So the person, if he says, Ya khadim al-jism, kam tas'a li khidmatihi. How you constantly feed your body, feed your body. Ataslubu al-ribha mimma fihi khusranu. Are you trying to gain from something that can't give you benefit? It can't give you any profit. Aqbil ala nafs. Focus on your nafs. Focus on yourself, on your ruh. واستكمل فضائلها. Perfect its virtues. فأنت بالنفس لا بالجسم إنسان. You are a human being on account of your nafs and your ruh, not on account of your body. Not on account of your muscles, not on account of your six-pack, not on account of how beautiful you look, whether you're white or you're black, or you're tall, you have blue eyes, whether you have blonde hair, whether you have black hair, that does not make you. What makes you is your ruh. What makes you
is your ruh. And therefore the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about some of the closest people to Allah, he says, رُبَّ أَشْعَث أغبر ذي طمرين مدفوع على الأبواب لو أقسم على الله لأبر قسمه. There may be a person who is disheveled, his عارس دمكة, أغبر, filled with dust, say clear as fail, full stuff. ذي طمرين, he has 2 pieces of garments, but it's tattered and it's torn. Old clothing, tattered clothes, dirty clothing. مدفوع على الأبواب. If he was to come and knock on the doors, people will chase him away. But that very person, if he says, Wallahi Allah, I take an oath by you now that you must make that person healthy, and Allah Ta'ala accepts his dua. I take an oath by you, Ya Allah, you must grant that person shifa, Allah Ta'ala accepts it. Oh Allah, I take an oath by you, Ya Allah, you must grant that person a child, Allah Ta'ala accepts his dua. Why? Because the deen doesn't judge the physical. Our physicality is not judged by Allah. Allah Ta'ala judges our hearts. May Allah Ta'ala purify our hearts. In these months and these nights of Ramadan, we Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala descends His mercy and His forgiveness and His order descends to the Sama'ud Dunya, and Allah Ta'ala gazes upon our hearts more so in this month than other months. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala see within our hearts that which is pleasing to Him. Oh Allah, purify our hearts. Oh Allah, remove from our hearts the love for dunya and all its diseases, Ya Allah. Remove it from our hearts, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we plead to you and we utter to you the same statement that Nabi Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam uttered when he required your assistance, when he said, Rabbi inni maghlubun fantasir. Oh Allah, we are overpowered. Oh Allah, we are being conquered, Ya Allah. So we are defeated, Ya Allah. So grant us victory. Oh Allah, Rabbi inni maghlubun fantasir. Oh Allah, we are defeated, Ya Allah. Fantasir. So bring victory to us, Ya Allah. Allah says, فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. We open up the doors of Sama with a gushing rain. وَفَجَّرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَىٰ أَمْرٍ قَدْ قُدِرٍ. And we open up the spring of the earth, and the earth gushed forth. In the entire earth became a spring. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَىٰ ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. And we carried him on a ship which was made of nails and pieces of wood that was knocked together. تجري بأعيننا. It was sailing, but it was sailing under our care and our protection. Oh Allah, we call to you as our Nabi Nuh called out to you. ربي إني مغلوب فانتصر. Oh Allah, we are overpowered, we are being defeated, Ya Allah. So grant us victory, grant us success, Ya Allah. Grant us to be winners, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, and allow the rain of your mercy to enter into our hearts. So much so that it cleanses our hearts. And so much so that the light penetrates these veils that is veiling us from you, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. And allow us in this dunya to sail on the ship of your salvation, that we are protected from all calamities and all trials and all fitan, that which is apparent and that which is hidden. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. على هذه النوايا وعلى كل صالح الجامع بسر الفاتحة وإلى حضرة النبي. جيب قصيدة واحدة. شيء جماعي ولا تجيب شيء فردي ولا؟
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. لجيراني لنا بالأبطحية بعثت مع النسيمات التحية وأودعت النسيم حديث حب قديم كان من يوم القضية دفين في الفؤاد به حياتي إذا صال الفناء على السوية تزمزم لي الحداة بذكر ليلى بذكر ليلى وما هي يا فتى بالعامرية فأصبو ثم أصبو ثم أصبو ثم أصبو ولا كالصبوات العذرية وليست للغواني والأغاني ولا للشهوات الدنيوية ولا للفانيات بأي معنى ولكن للأمور العلوية حقائق من رقائقك قد تسمت بأوج الحضارات القدسية مناظر للنواظر من قلوب مطهرة زكية نقية وأرواح تطير إلى علاها بأجنحة الغرام المقعدية فتسرح في رياض من جنان وتأويل القناديل المضية فوا شوق الفؤاد لخير عيش مع الأحباب في الغرف العليا عسى الرب الكريم بمحض فضل يبلغنا أقاصي الأمنية عسى الرب الكريم بمحض فضل يبلغنا أقاصي الأمنية عسى الرب الكريم بمحض فضل يبلغنا أقاصي الأمنية
بارك اللهم لنا في مجالسنا هذه المجالس الرمضانية وأمدنا بنفحاته القدوسية وأعطانا من مواهبه الصمدانية وربطنا بسيدنا محمد خير البرية يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا يا رب العالمين لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا يا رب العالمين لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا يا رب العالمين نسألك يا إلهنا نظرة من نظراتك ألا يا الله بنظرة من العين الرحيمة تداوي كل ما بنا من أمراض سقيمة على إن وغير عنا في صحن جامعة وعلى ما نوصل سلفنا الصالح وعلى ما نوقف الزمان وعلى ما سلفنا المسل الفاتحة وإلى حضرة النبي
وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الفاتحة.